Welcome to the Thriving Farmer Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kilpatrick. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and celebrate sustainable farming. We believe that you can build a profitable, sustainable farm that gives you true farm freedom. Join us as we talk to farmers, innovators, educators, and entrepreneurs to glean their top takeaways in business and life. Hey, Thriving Farmers, Michael Kilpatrick here with another episode of the Thriving Farmer Podcast. And I'm here with Chase, Renninger, and Allyssa Ferguson, and they farm in South Carolina. Welcome.
Hey, thank you so much.
Great to be here, Michael.
Yeah, tell us a little about your farm, the farm name, and how you got started.
Well, I started the farm about 4.5 years ago. And so I guess the farm name, we have a couple little valleys in our farm, and I was trying to come up with the most generic name possible because I had a grand vision for the farm that eventually will be in supermarkets, and I didn't want it to be some permaculture hippie name. I wanted it to be, that was a professional name because I had a big dream. And I figured, what are some of these names that are on milk cartons or something like that? And I just came up with a very generic, bland name for the farm.
Woodland Valley Farms.
Yeah, and so I started 4.5 years ago, but before that I was farming other people's property. I was a farm manager while I was getting my degree in agroecology in Arizona and studying permaculture and just a ton of stuff. I've been farming for 10 years now. Since I was about 20 years old, and I did some contracting work just to be able to gain some skill sets. And for all the beginning farmers out there, if you have a small market garden or something and you want to become a bigger farmer, I highly recommend doing this path, which is getting some experience doing carpentry, getting experience doing plumbing, getting experience working on irrigation. They're professional irrigation installation companies. You can work on their team for a couple months just doing regular labor, and you'll learn a ton. Learning mechanics, learning how to break an engine apart and put an engine back together in a big truck, or just there's so many skills and details that go into becoming those farmers that you see with a really nice farm. They have a ton of skills, and I think it's extremely valuable for beginning farmers to go out there and get these basic skills. Me and Allyssa both have a similar upbringing in which my uncle started getting into horses when I was 8 or 9. And I was out there. I was so excited. I remember just being a kid shoveling manure, and I would always follow them in the parade, at the horse hunting parade, and I would get all the manure and put it in the back of the John Deere Gator. And when I was a kid, I would drive out to the compost piles because none of the adults wanted to go dump the compost, and I just thought it was the greatest thing ever. And Allyssa also grew up on a horse farm.
Yeah. So while I didn't grow up farming per se, but I was no stranger to agriculture. I had the Midwestern farm and dairy on the kitchen table growing up. And believe it or not, you get, when you're in an agricultural community, I grew up around a lot of Amish people. And that work ethic, I think, just instilled in me at a very early age, you got to get up at 6 a.m. and crack the horses water in the middle of winter. So they have it. I have a different life path. I kind of went through a rebellious streak and was like, I am not going to be a farm girl. So the majority of my 20s were spent in the city of Atlanta. I moved from Ohio in my quaint little farm town to the big city of Atlanta. And I just basically floundered for a while during the recession and in my 20s. And then
but you were working at fine dining.
And then I started working fine dining restaurants, which really started my journey into food and just having a deeper connection with food. Every day during lineup for the restaurant, the chef would come out and talk about some new crop, or we're not going to have arugula on the menu because the farmer I get arugula from had all of his crops washed away with these horrible storms. And
the darn flea beetles.
Flea beetles.
Yes.
And then I actually started working in a restaurant that had 10 to 15 different types of country hams on the menu at any given time. And
wow.
that is when I started my obsession with pigs and learning all about pigs, because I just thought it was so cool that I have a sommelier background too. So I thought it was so cool that each type of ham had a different flavor, and it just blew my mind. So I totally geeked out about that. And then little by little, I had some things happen in my life that made me want to get out of the restaurant industry. I was becoming very depressed and unfulfilled. And I had a lot of people close to me pass away, unfortunately, like close friends. And I was just like, what am I doing here? I need to reboot my life. And it all started with just having a little garden. I remember how proud I was of my first little box garden that I built. And then it led to getting some chickens. And then I bought pigs off Craigslist. And and then it was downhill from there. And then I ran my own farm before I met Chase. I had my own little farming thing outside the city of Atlanta, like in the suburbs. And I ran pigs and chickens and had a little garden, but mostly the only thing I took to market was pigs and chickens, pork and chicken
and eggs.
And that's how we met.
Yeah, we met castrating pigs because I knew Alyssa's mom. She was friends with my uncle, actually. And we're only 2.5 hours from Atlanta. And I was not breeding pigs. So I was at one point breeding pigs. It didn't go according to plan. I just didn't have really quality genetics. And so I was buying piglets at the time. And I went out to help Allyssa castrate. And I said, hey, I'll come out there and help you castrate, but you got to cut me a deal for driving 2.5 hours. So we cut pigs and fell in love, and happily ever after.
Yeah.
So give us that's great to hear your backstory. And I think something you said there, Chase, is that you have to do, especially in those early years, there's so many different skills you have to be good at. If you see some of these farmers that have built those $1.5 million farms, now they outsource a lot of that. But back at the beginning, they were doing the electrical, they were doing the plumbing, they were doing everything on the farm, because at the scale you're doing at that beginning, if it's like a 15-minute job and to get a contractor to look at it first and then get them out there to do it, it's more of your time and hundreds and hundreds of dollars of their time to do this very small task.
Yeah, absolutely. And so all the majority of the contracting I personally do at the farm, and me and my dad do a lot of the work and stuff. And let me tell you guys, you see everybody on Facebook, you can't do that overnight. Like, it takes years of practice. And I see a lot of people succeed with that when they're older, because they've just had the time to slow their mind down. When you're in your 20s, you want to get everything done. A lot of these farmers who are new and starting and they're in their 30s or 40s, they're able to start a professional farm just because they're a little bit older, they're wiser. So
that wise aspect, I think, is so important. So talk to us about your business model, because your business model changed drastically during the pandemic, and you have something very different now. So talk to us about, first, can you give us an overview of like how the system works, and then we can dive into every single enterprise.
Okay. So we had a small CSA to begin before COVID-19 hit. We maybe had 10 to 12 members, and we were predominantly
$100
we were predominantly farmers market people. Like, we would go to the farmers market, and we were always kind of scouting new little markets that popped up to have new revenue streams. But every weekend on Saturday, we would pack up early in the morning and then go to the farmers market. And that was how we made our income.
And we had CSA pickup at the farmers market booth.
Yeah, this is kind of like your traditional farmers market CSA type thing. But there was a lot of issues that we ran into with that. Weather, you go to the farmers market, though, if it's cold, too cold, it's always too cold, too hot, too wet, something. We're in the South and the weather's beautiful here all the time, but you'd be surprised how
not all the time, Allyssa.
You'd be surprised how light rain will just totally make people not come to the market.
Yeah.
And then when COVID-19 hit, we we were like, what are we going to do? Oh my gosh, like we can't go to farmers markets anymore. I think we went once with all of the masks and the social distancing. I think we made like $200 or something. And it was just like, we can't do this anymore. We got to figure something else out.
But the one important thing is about our farmers markets here in South Carolina, we do not have huge farmers markets. And I have been to all the good farmers markets. I've been to the DuPont Circle Farmers Market in Washington, D.C. I've been to the Santa Fe Farmers Markets. I've toured tons of huge markets, and we have the worst farmers market I've ever seen. We have hundreds of vendors, but a lot of them are just like food trucks, candies, arts and crafts, and there were only about 2 farmers there, and we were one of them. I was there for years and years.
Yeah, and you would think that that would increase the traffic because there was so little farmer competition, but I just think that in the South we're still doing a lot of education about where to buy good food. Anyways, long story short, COVID-19 hit. I thankfully, about maybe 6 months before COVID, I had reorganized our website so that I had some little links for people to sign up, so I could at least get emails. And if they were interested in joining the CSA, they could get on a waiting list. Well, I already had the system set up. So I told Chase, well, look, I'll reword a couple things. And all of a sudden we had all of these people joining our CSA instantly, like as soon as COVID hit, as soon as the grocery stores were out of produce and meat, we had people, our phone was ringing all the time for the people trying to get on our waiting list. And we just had to tell them, look, like, I can't service everybody, but we'll get on the waiting list. And the cool part about the waiting list is it gives you a chance to almost like trim the fat of your customers, because if people are serious about it and you email them a month later and say, hey, I have space on my list. Would you like to join? Here's the $225 deposit form, blah, blah, blah. The people who want to be in the CSA truly and are excited about it, they'll become members of our CSA.
They'll give us the deposit immediately.
And that's what we really want. We really want to have customers who are super excited to be in the CSA. It's not a chore for them. They want to be a part of it because it is expensive. Our CSA model, we dropped it from $100 a week to $75 a week, which is like kind of a nice middle ground
between 50 and 100.
Yeah. And then we're able to supply a beautiful array of products from our farm every single week. We offer $20 to $25 worth of vegetables, a dozen eggs, and
$8 of mushrooms.
Yeah, anywhere from a half a pound to a pound of mushrooms, and you get around $30 to $45 worth of meat,
depending on everything that we have. Yeah,
so we just kind of do a simple add and subtraction model where, so say we have like less crops coming out of the garden. Maybe we have $18 worth of produce this week. Then maybe we'll throw in an extra pack of sausage or a little bit more mushrooms so that everything totals and tallies up to be $75 worth. And I think that people really like the variety and the fact that it changes from week to week. And, of course, occasionally people are picky eaters, but for the most part, our CSA is really super supportive. Oh my goodness. Like, we're so grateful. They essentially become members of our family, like extended family. Like the majority, actually, when we got married in October, half the people at our wedding were CSA members who had supported us.
That's so awesome. Yeah.
But this model is really great where we have such a variety of stuff because it really does allow you to add and subtract, as Allyssa said. So to all the farmers out there, you might have a ton of beef this season and not so much pork, and you can substitute a little bit more beef in here. Oh, I have so much beef. You know what? I need to give them some variety, and let's go to the Cornish cross chicken, or let's go to the Freedom Ranger and get some harvesting in at 8 weeks, and then we'll have turn in that variety. And we're always thinking about how we can add little things in here and there. And I don't think everybody has the ability to start a mushroom operation because, well, that's delegated to our business partner, Ben, and his entire crew
Okay.
that run our whole mushroom operation. We have a laboratory for sterilization and bagging like we have automatic bagger machines. Like they've received over $100,000, I believe, at this point in grants from the state of South Carolina to do this work.
Wow.
And everything is in pharmaceutical grade shipping containers.
Okay.
So what I did before I had them, when I was just running the CSA by myself, I delegated that part of the farm out to another farm that grew mushrooms. They went out of business. So we came up with the idea of starting the mushroom operation. But
yeah, Ben, but Ben, our partners, Ben and Rebecca, they truly do everything with that. Like we are really hands off with that because we, and it's a little bit, we don't really like working inside shipping containers all day. Like we want to be outside. So that's
delegate.
Yeah, and they handle all of that, which is great. So we go out to a fridge, we grab a box of mushrooms, and
off we are.
And off we go.
Very cool.
But yeah, if you can, if you have a CSA that's diverse like us, and you can just delegate one enterprise out to another farm and have a co-op model, highly recommend it because that's one thing off of your plate.
Yeah. Now, do people pick up on the farm or do you deliver?
Oh, yeah. So that is the key to our CSA model right now is we deliver to every CSA member. And I know that sounds crazy, but we didn't really have a choice when COVID hit. So right now we have about 42 CSA members total. And we decided to deliver because we realized that there was just so many people who would never leave their house during COVID. And then what we found out is by delivering, we are essentially empowered with how we use our time. So we
deliver in the dark.
We can deliver in the dark. And because it is a great service for people, I think that it gives us greater flexibility. So say it's pouring down rain. It's really hard to make deliveries when it's pouring down rain and in traffic in the middle of Columbia in the city. So we'll message all of our customers and say, hey,
tomorrow.
Weather's really bad, or hey, the pigs broke out.
Yes.
I can't come and do deliveries today. We're coming tomorrow, and that gives us some flexibility as opposed to if there's an accident or something happens on a Saturday and you're going to the farmer's market every Saturday. And if you don't go to market, you don't make money, then we have a lot more empowerment in how we get money now. And we're more in charge of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much predictability in our income model right now. I wouldn't do it another way. And eventually when we're going to get into this, we're going to change our business model as we get older, and we already have this entire thing planned out. So,
well, should we talk a little bit about
the enterprises,
how much food we grow?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. So you do a wide variety of stuff. Talk us through a little bit first. Let's talk into the meat because you do chicken, beef, pork, lamb.
Okay. So as Jordan Green talks about a lot at Farm Builder, you need to have a backbone to your enterprise when you're starting your farm. Okay. So what that is for us is pigs. We raise a lot of forest raised pigs. We have 80 acres of forest, and we're continuously fencing in more and more and more using the timeless fencing system. So our backbone is pigs. We have about 200 Berkshire and Berkshire Ossaball cross pigs at our farm right now.
Yeah, we stick to a specific breed of pig because we really like the Berkshire Ossaball variable. Most of our pigs are 3/4 Berkshire with 1/4 Ossaball. And it works out really well.
So we also have, so we raise them in the forest, but we also have the Joel Salatin style composting system inside. So we have a 40 by 135 foot long barn that has concrete in it that used to be from the old dairy, and we converted this into our pig composting system. So we can bring pigs up to load them into our trailer, and we can also use it as a deep bedded mulch system. So, and I want everybody to keep this in mind when you are building your pig system. You need to watch out for the chemicals if you are going to be an organic farm. Even if you're not certified organic, there are a lot of herbicides inside of the hay that you might throw into the barn, because we throw giant round bales in to our barn as bedding, and we mix it with all kinds of different stuff. So we make our own custom bedding that the pigs turn and churn into our compost mixture, which consists of chicken manure, cow manure, wood chips, shavings, and old round bales. So when we get our round bales, they're like 36 months old, and then our composting system is in the barn for 6 months, and then once we pull the compost out, it's turned and churned for 8 months to 12 months. So we're getting like, all of our stuff is like 3 to 4 years old. So any herbicide that might be in that hay, it's completely gone at that point. So when you get fresh hay and you're throwing fresh hay in from that season, almost every single farmer out there, if you're buying hay into your farm, it's going to have herbicides in it, and it's going to be really harmful for at least 18 months.
Gotcha. Yeah. So make sure that you are, either you're going to have to work with a farmer to make sure they're not spraying it. Just be very, very careful on that, or just have to turn it, as you said, for multiple years to get rid of that.
Yeah.
Because some of those herbicides are nasty, and we've definitely seen farmers get herbicide damage in their, and especially it affects vegetables.
Absolutely. And if you get compost, you're buying in compost or whatever, you can use any type of legume and put it in a microgreens tray and, test out your legume germination. And if all of your legumes are dying, then you got some issues with toxicity in your compost system. But yeah, we make all of our own compost for the garden, and we're able to do that through the pig system.
And the only reason why we are able to grow our market garden is because of the pigs, because we are in a location that has the worst sandy, dry, crunchy, no topsoil. It's just,
our market garden is an old soybean field that was in a monoculture for many, many, many years. There's zero topsoil, almost zero organic matter when we got there, and I knew I had to build this composting system from the beginning.
Yeah, it's like beach sand,
Yeah. And so you've been able to add all that compost coming off of the animals, which is awesome.
And it's massive amounts. This is not a small system. You're talking about like
front end loaders
only. Like, we're not using wheelbarrows or anything like that, and it's almost too much for our tractor right now. We have like an 80 horse Kubota, but we're going to be upgrading to a skid steer with a bigger bucket.
That's so nice.
And it's a potential income opportunity too, because there aren't very many local, like, high quality compost makers. And the pigs are essentially work as sifters. Like the compost that we create, it is not machine sifted, but it looks like it is, because it's just completely chopped up from the pigs.
Now you've also got chickens that live in the barn too.
Yes. We have anywhere from, I think right now we have about 100 laying hens, and we kind of follow we keep a strong pecking order. So we keep older hens, and that kind of like teach the younger ones. And every year we buy 50 or 60 more laying hens to kind of replenish the flock. We cull after about 2 years, cull the chicken, the main laying. We use the nouveau gens as our main layers. And we have them on like kind of a free range system right now. We have 2 different hen houses, and the chickens kind of just help clean up the farm and keep the pig barn like scratched through.
We have 2 mobile coops that we can move anywhere around the farm, and then we have
so it helps us manage the roosting manure as it accumulates.
Our like older chickens and our older ducks, they primarily hang out inside of the barn, and it really helps with the elimination of flies and odors and anything else, because they're always scratching, getting bugs out and maggots and anything else that comes into the compost in stage 1. So Yeah, that's kind of the barn system. And if you want really any information about this animal integration system, just go get Introduction to Permaculture, the first book by Bill Mollison.
It's amazing.
But yeah, and then after we kind of train all the pigs on the electric, we take them down into our forest and they're finished off into the woods. And in an ideal situation, we have all of our hickory nuts dropping off the trees and we're able to finish the pigs on hickory.
Yeah.
We have really nice, good quality, non-GMO feed. And yeah.
We work really closely with our, like I said, the backbone of our business is our pig operation. Right now we have about a little less than 200 pigs on the farm, and they're at varying stages. We're breeding year round. We have, we basically are going through 10 to 12 pigs a month right now, and we're looking to increase that.
We're going to be going through 10 to 12 when we add our new CSA members.
Yeah. So,
gotcha. Yeah.
So we work very closely with our processor to make sure that everything works out the timing for all of those things works out well. And, I encourage people, it is tricky when you're first starting out to get your processor to respect your time and to respect what you're doing. Because when you first start out, you look like small change, bringing a couple pigs in at a time. But as we started to grow, we really tried to build a good relationship, even if it's bringing like little gifts to the counter lady to make her
like our lard soap, wine, whatever you got to do.
Yes.
Bribery. No, I'm just kidding.
Grease the wheels.
No, but it is true. I think a lot of young farmers, and I might have made this mistake up in the beginning too, a lot of these people that you need to work with in rural communities they're old school, and you have to respect that they're old school and that they maybe they don't use email, or maybe they don't accept credit cards. Our feed mill, for example, they're wonderful Mennonite farmers, and we have to write a check. That's just
check or cash.
Check or cash. That's it. So just respecting your middleman, because we do not have a viable business right now without either of those people, our feed mill and our processor. So whatever you have to do to encourage good relationship with those people. So if they have problems in their business model and they're not able to help us, they tell us that they say, hey, look, you guys are going through more grain than we can provide for right now. They give us a heads up so that we can, figure it out.
Yeah, no, that's such a key point right there. It's all about farming is so much about the community. Just here locally, we've just mentioned before we got in the call, we're going through 2 different development plans, one for our farm and one for our farm store. And, I was able to, when we had the meeting, call a couple folks in town and say, hey, I'd love if you could show up at the meeting, because it's kind of like, show some that you're for the project. And the owner of our local hardware store, not hardware store, they're a lumber yard. It's a full lumber yard they've got there, and design service and stuff. He was like, sure, I'll come down. So he came down, and it's just one of those things of building that community of those in the community that you can trust. And, I needed a trucker for something the other day. And so I walked down there and said, hey, do you guys have, and he gave me a name. And so it's one of those things of building that local community, because you're not an island. You can't be an island. And with that aspect too, you just said, is also of building those relationships. So it's not only of having those people, that numbers, but when you call, will they pick up the phone, and what will they do for you?
Exactly.
And that is so important.
Totally.
Absolutely.
So back to our enterprises, we have grass-fed meat. We do grass-fed cows. We have a herd of about 20 cows?
A little over 20.
Yeah, we have more calves dropping. So we have small herd of beef cows. Chase started originally with longhorn cows, and then we kind of transitioned because they're so slow growing. And what a lot of people don't realize is longhorn cows are naughty. They break fences.
They can jump fences.
They will gore you with their horns. It's
all happened.
I'm not going to say all longhorn cows are bad, but
most longhorn cows are bad.
They're bad cows. So we just wanted to switch, at least temporarily, while we were kind of getting the rest of our hog operation on the ground. We switched to pretty docile Black Angus cows because they're fast growing. They have very few labor issues. And that's what we're doing right now. We're currently switching to
South Pole cow.
South Poles
I was
because
going to ask
that's
you about
what Great
that. Yeah.
Judy uses. Yeah. And we have a South Pole bull right now that is gorgeous. And we're so excited to spend a little bit more money and buy really beautiful heifers over the next few seasons.
Here's the thing, guys, with starting your beef cattle operation. You can buy a Angus cow or whatever at $1,400. It'll be decent. But the thing is, you start spending more money on these beef cows, and later in life the cows are going to be paying their dividends.
Yeah.
And it really makes a difference. You're talking about almost a year of production that you're going to be ahead on. And that means let's say you take that over a 40-year period, you're going to be 40 years ahead of the competition, because you have cows that are finishing at 18 months or 24 months on grass compared to something like a Dexter cow or just a slow growing commercial cow. And it might take you 30 to 36 months to grow that cow out. So we want to be at that 24-month range. And granted, any cow that you have that's older, it's going to have a little more flavor. But as far as production, we want an animal that's going to perform on a daily rotationally grazed system that's 100% grass, and it's going to perform really well. So at this point, we're willing to invest all of our money that we have into quality grass-fed beef genetics.
Yes.
Now,
go ahead.
Yeah, and beef is not an easy enterprise to get in because you're playing the long game there.
Oh yeah. I mean, remember, guys, when you're getting one cow, if you get a heifer, and a lot of people are going to start with heifers, which is a young female cow that has not given birth yet, you're going to be buying something that's weaned. Maybe it's going to be 6 to 9 months old. And you're not going to be making money off that cow for like 4 to 5 years. So for us, we see it as our retirement vision and a passion of ours, and something that's going to be paying our salary when we're old. So, a lot of people in the conventional world want to put their money into investments in a 401k or a mutual fund or something. And we want to invest in regenerative agriculture. So we believe that we should put our money into our local community in supporting local businesses, in growing grass-fed beef, growing fruit trees, growing timber crops, etc.
Yeah. In conjunction with the beef cows, we have a flock of 50 sheep. And
55. We just had 5 lambs.
Yeah, that's right. So we're really excited to kind of see our sheep program growing, and I will tell people, when you're first starting out, doing grass-fed sheep is really difficult. It's sad. It's kind of sad because we lost a lot of lambs in the beginning, kind of culling and allowing nature to take its course. Of course, we didn't want to lose lambs, but when you're breeding for parasite resistance, which we were, we lost a lot of lambs initially. And now we have parasite resistant hybrid sheep. We do a variety of black belly Barbados. We do St. Croix and Katahdin. And every year, so what we do is we keep the females. We keep all of the females on our farm and grow them out so that they can breed. And then every year we buy a new ram.
Gotcha.
So we'll slaughter the ram, and then we'll buy a new one.
Or we sell it.
We sell it. Yeah.
We have really nice rams now. So selling our rams, it's like $500 plus a piece. So
yeah. So, okay. So we got through most of the enterprises, I think. Just trying to think. Meat birds. How do you do your meat birds?
We do a combination. So I really like Freedom Rangers. I think they dress out and they taste amazing. And I also like them because they remain healthier. So if we have a lot on our plate. Sometimes we don't get the time to butcher right when the chickens are ready. So if I need to wait a couple weeks to slaughter until my schedule opens up, I can do that. And that has worked as for our flexibility.
The Freedom Ranger is the key.
Yeah, we also raise Cornish crosses though, and we keep them in a Saladin style chicken tractor.
Yeah.
And that gets pulled every day. And sometimes we keep the Freedom Rangers in the chicken tractors too. It just depends on, in the wintertime, a free range system can be kind of tricky. You have young birds, they will try to sleep outside, yada, yada, yada. So in the wintertime, we tractor a lot more birds. And then during like the colder weather, and then in the summer, we have more free ranging setups. So the birds can kind of just do their thing. And
we're in the process right now of actually building a really large hoop house style welded chicken coop on skids.
Yep.
Like you see it, Paul Grieve has at Pasture Bird, but we're custom building it with our welder and all that at the farm.
We got a really nice welder.
Nice.
So we're in the process of doing that, and that'll hold like 500 birds. And our big limitation right now is we're only able to do 1,000 birds illegally in South Carolina. So we're delegating the butchering process now to our processor. It's a big step for us to do that.
I have butchered thousands of birds at this time in my life, and I'm kind of over it. Just like, I'm really good at it, and she's like, "Oh, well, you're so good at it," and it's like, "No, honey, I'm like, don't want to."
You're good at it, but it doesn't mean you like it. I mean when we were at Polyface, we were butchering. Well, some days would be 600, and we do twice a week. So that was like about 1,000 a week, if not 1,200 a week. So you just got really good at it. I mean, when you do that for 16 weeks straight, that muscle memory you build for eviscerating birds. I mean, if you can't eviscerate in 30 seconds or less, then you get moved off of evisceration.
Yeah,
totally.
So, being able to do that, and we would have competitions and stuff to see who could do the fastest. And I think I would usually win those, but mine were usually the messiest too.
Well, I think the actual butcher day kind of, that's always the thing that I procrastinate on. And like, that's to me, of course, suck it up and do it when you're starting out, right?
Yeah.
Which is what I did for years. It's just suck it up and do it. But now that we are growing and we're trying to manage our time in an intelligent way, I don't want to feel defeated because I procrastinate on something repeatedly. Over and over and over again. Like, to me, eventually you have to look at your life and say, okay, cool, this is something I actually really don't want to do anymore. And
I want to do more market gardening.
I want to have a good life, and I don't want to feel like a slave to my farm right now.
So let's break into that a little bit, because that's something like in our online business here that we've actually kind of like, our team is growing now. I think we have like 6 people on that work for us. But it's actually more than that, but like, but we keep hiring people US based. But one of the things we realized is, like, we were doing this promotion and I kept procrastinating on it. And we sat down as a team, we're like, okay, why did that happen? Because it affected how the promotion went and affected all these other things. And we realized, I just don't like that part of the job. Yeah. And at this point in the business, they need me to focus on what I'm good at and what I like. And the same thing on your farm. So if you keep procrastinating on something, like, how can I either outsource this, or is this not a good fit for our farm anymore? And sometimes it also is just the system. So maybe it's something like, sometimes you just need to get a new piece of equipment or something to make it a lot more efficient and make it, better again. But processing is one of those things that I know why butchers get paid so much. At least
exactly.
Yeah, the guys in the kill room sometimes don't get paid well, but a good meat cutter gets paid really, really well, because they're obviously handling thousands of dollars worth of product a day, but also it's not necessarily a fun job. They're working in a cold room for 8 hours with fatty meat.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
And and we enjoy going back to like kind of the homestead. We run a homestead, and we enjoy the processing of animals on our farm.
We kill and butcher and process all of our. Wait, 1 second. Let me say something about this procrastination thing. So, when you're procrastinating on something, whether that's in the garden or doing a fence project or whatever, that is looming over your mind the entire time. And that mental block will prevent you from being able to see other things going wrong at the farm or being able to succeed at other things at the farm. So when you can eliminate that little mental block and pinch, it's going to free you up so much mentally and give you so much clarity to be able to succeed in other ways.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, every morning I make a list of things that I have to do, things that I need to do, and things that are on the back burner until I get the gumption to do it. Yeah. And, you know, there's pros and cons to making a list every morning, because you always know what you didn't do the day before that you wanted to do. And sometimes, you know, mentally that can take a toll after a while. So
is this a paper list or is this a digital list?
No, it's just it's just a notebook, a plain old notebook.
Every single morning before we start work, Allyssa and I have a cup of coffee and we have a morning meeting for 30 minutes to an hour about exactly what we have to do. We get all of our financials together whenever we need it during that morning period. And we go over all of our numbers like, oh, hey, we're going to be a little bit short on cash this week. What can we do? Let's sell some piglets right now to be able to cash flow this various aspect of the farm or whatever.
And we have less of that now.
Yeah.
But when you're starting out, it can be, you know, you're sometimes it feels like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but you're investing in your business. And that's what we did. We made a lot of sacrifices and we were broke for a really long time. And now we're not broke. So that's good.
It takes a long time, lots of grit to get through this permaculture style business model, because you're all like, there's a lot of money that goes into putting into all of these different investments in the farm and everything like that. So.
Well, animals are, I feel, this is my personal opinion, animals are never as profitable as the horticulture / vegetable side in an enterprise budget. I mean, like you can take 6 seeds, which are a penny each, put them in a 6-pack with 17 cents of soil, grow them in a greenhouse for 4 weeks and charge $3.50 for that.
Exactly. A pot of bamboo is $50 for a pot of bamboo, guys. I mean, come on.
Yes, exactly. But people are like, your chicken's not $4.99 pre-cooked delivered to my door. No, it's not, because Costco does that as a lost leader to get you to the back of the store because you're going to buy everything else along the way.
Exactly.
So I mean, that's the problem with this dichotomy is people just don't understand the true economics of food. And one thing you did say, not to kind of go off too much, but you did talk about the education side of things, but you really enjoy that open dialogue. She can make sure they understand, you know, daikon radishes or gel bacon or lamb shank. So talk to us a little bit about the educational side of things.
Well, yeah. So I actually wrote like a little cookbook.
It was for our local food bank.
It was for our local community food bank. And it was basically just like how to cook when you're broke. But what I put in there was basic recipes for like that a homestead would do, you know, roasting a chicken, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time. But you'd be surprised. A lot of people don't really know how to cook. They don't know how to throw a bunch of stuff in a Dutch oven and put it on low and let it cook for the whole day. I do not. We spend a lot of time cooking, but I am not a slave to my stove. I let it work for me. You know,
we live in a convenience culture, and all of our customers are convenience-based people. They don't want to have they don't want to be in the slow food community, and we kind of make them.
We force them. But a lot of things. So, you know, we are going through a lot of pigs on our farm, and anybody who raises pigs will know there is a lot of, you know, nose to snout or nose to tail products that the typical person doesn't want to eat. You know, trotters, pigtails, pig heads, all of the offal and hearts and all of that.
And that's what we eat.
That's what we eat. But
the dogs.
You know, it's interesting. Right now we actually have some people, I think, because of like maybe it's their lifestyle or how they cook, they, you know,
they say that they have high cholesterol, but we're like, how much alcohol are you drinking and how much sugar are you eating?
Yeah, you know, and
you need some healthy fats.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize too is that, you know, you can't just eat muscle meat all the time. You know, you really need to eat your collagen. You need to eat liver and skin and all of these things that, even if it's just throwing it in a pot and letting it simmer, like there's a lot of vital minerals and nutrients in food that I think people kind of forget about. And we know about it because we're like total geeks who obsess over nutrition. But
our customers aren't. So it's our job as farmers to also be a little bit of their nutritionist and make sure that they're getting healthy shares that are well-rounded with all of these micronutrients and good, food for the kids.
That's actually a really interesting thing, because obviously, we live here in a very blue collar community. We're in Ohio, very red state. So it's just the level of nutrition and nutritional thinking is just very different than when we were like in more some of the East Coast cities. And so that's one of the things we're really talking about is how do we communicate, how do we educate our customers our community, who the top grossing store in our town is the local Dairy Queen.
Yeah,
totally.
So getting in touch with those we'll do obviously that ourselves, but I think our goal is to start focusing on working with some local nutritionists and feed each other. So they send customers our way, we send customers their way, and then just kind of work together. But
totally.
Absolutely, yeah. Our market garden or our market garden manager right now actually is a health coach. So he coaches people online and stuff like that and builds nutrition plans for them. And so we kind of have like an on-staff little life coach, health coach right now, which is cool.
And it's, as a farmer, it's important to practice what you preach. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I haven't gone to the drive-through on a long road trip, you know what I mean? But
we all have our guilty pleasures.
Yeah. Like, okay, we've all done it. Don't act like you haven't.
But the majority of the food that we eat is extremely healthy, and we grow almost all of our own food. We consume like 95% of the food that we grow. And Allyssa and I are really into global cuisine and educating ourselves in what people are eating in developing nations and poor places around the world. And we try to like recreate that in our like little old dairy barn kitchen. And we have so much fun with our cooking and our food in the house, and we just love it so much.
Yeah, I have a ham curing in an old French armoire right now.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
So one of the things I wanted to mention about connecting to customers, and this is just like a simple little marketing tool that I use that might be helpful for people starting out. There's an app that I use that allows me to send a personal an individual text message to as many people as I want. So it's not a group text. And I can create like a really nice text message and send it all out. And I basically do a blast to CSA members. So for right now, we have 3 CSAs. We do Aiken, Augusta, and Columbia. And I have them all organized in my Hit 'em Up. Nice. It's called Hit 'em Up. It's a little app. And I do pay for it. It's not a free app, but to me, it is such a lifesaver.
Yeah.
So I'm able to formulate a text message saying, "Hey guys, I'm about to leave for deliveries. My chicken stopped laying this week, or where I'm low on eggs, or I dropped a giant basket of eggs on my foot, and so we don't have eggs this week." Like, there's mistakes that happen sometimes on the farm, and
you can just communicate.
I can communicate it, and it actually I think it really helps our customers understand that we're not Instacart and that we're growing food for them, and
we're beginning farmers at the same time. And then real quick, what's the other app that we use for our delivery route?
Placemaker.
Okay.
So we are able to, organization has been kind of hard for me, at least on the business side of things, because I've never really been very good at that. But
we're getting better.
I'm getting better, and I'm really starting to delegate. There's a lot of really cool technology out there that just research it and look and find out. Like, I was thinking in my head once, like, oh, gosh, there's got to be an app that can help me not do this dumb group text, because I hate group texts.
Yes, yes. Everyone's responding and
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to redirect here and get back to our meat birds real quick. Let's just summarize this. Meat birds, We are moving into the bigger coop system. Guys, please just move over to a bigger coop system.
Yes.
Because why are you going to move 10 tractors a day when you can move one tractor and fill up one giant water river?
Yes.
It's just ridiculous. The time savings will pay for themselves.
And it kills your back.
Yes.
Next, we're going to go into our market garden. So as we mentioned before, the pigs and the chickens in our giant composting barn system, that provides the compost and the fertility to the market garden. So we run experiments in the garden all the time. So the majority of our garden is in no-till production. And if we loosen the soil, we just use a broad fork. We have all of that kind of stuff as a typical market garden does.
Yep.
You know, we use the Jang seeder. We have a tilther to prep the top of our beds and potentially integrate our custom fertilizer blends into whatever crop we're growing there. We have the new Johnny 6-point seeder I just got. I'm so excited about it. They just came out with that one.
I'm very interested to look at that one. How does it look?
Well, I ran a couple beds of carrots and they haven't germinated, and I put them next to my Jang seeder and the Jang germinated. So I totally screwed up somewhere in there. You figure it all out. But the Jang seeder is a key in the garden. The tilther really is a game changer for us when we just do that top little soil prep. And we can integrate our compost, or we can mulch on top of that, whatever kind of works for the system that we're running with the particular produce we're planting in that bed. But we also do some, like, I have a big tiller. We don't have a BCS. So all of our no-till is all by hand. Everything is by hand. But we have a huge tiller that goes on the back of our tractor if we're prepping new fields or whatever. And then we'll just prep it with the big tiller. We throw our big silage tarps down. We have like 4 or 5 huge silage tarps in the garden. As far as our controls go, that is one of our controls, is doing the silage tarp. And that was actually part of my senior thesis. So many years ago in college, I was farming in Hawaii and actually experimented with tarping these horrible guinea grass fields out there. It's a very invasive grass, and the tarping after 6 months completely cleared up the issue and allows you to have a productive market garden in a tropical environment. And since we are subtropical, I just took those lessons because we are dealing with the worst weeds. You guys have no idea. If you're in any other climate except for the South, like, your weeds aren't what we have. It's a whole different situation.
We have vicious.
Yeah, we have coastal grasses. We have pigweeds that, like, you've never seen. We have ironweed that'll mat the whole beds. My entire first year, I lost almost all of my crops because of the amount of weed pressure. But now, since we've been doing no-till, we've cultivated for many years. Like, our weed pressure is nothing. So but we're moving into a new field block this year, expanding a little bit with a food forest situation and some hedgerows. And then we're going to have another 1/2 acre of production. So that'll be great for us. Anyways, back to the controls. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 caterpillar tunnels. One of them is our nursery. And then we have 122 by 100-foot by 12-foot tall greenhouse, and we have another one of those we just purchased, so that's going to be going up this spring. So we have 2 big greenhouses, 4 cat tunnels, and we use row cover outside in the middle of winter when we're growing carrots outside.
What zone would they would you say you are?
We're zone 8B.
Okay, so really warm. Yeah,
we are really warm here.
Summer is almost like our winter here because it's so hot, and it really limits the amount of work that we can do. Like wintertime, we get burned out because we grind really hard in the winter to try to get everything where it needs to be.
We've been taking a little bit of a break, kind of toning it down over the past 2 or 3 months. And
we've had good helpers.
Work's cranking out this week now. It's like the first week of spring for us, really.
Yeah.
But in the middle of winter, we're typically trying to get projects done and stuff like that. So right now we got we're putting in 30 acres of high tensile fencing. And we're putting up the big greenhouse projects. We just bought a new shipping container, and we're doing an enamel paint floor on it and turning that into our washing pack station. So before we had our wash and pack underneath our barn awning, but we're turning that into our outside gym and yoga area so we can like get some exercise in the morning, and get it closer away from our dogs. So now our wash and pack station is centralized right in the garden. So everything that we need is really like, we think about time and motion studies constantly on the farm, and having this wash and pack station right at the beginning of our 2 big greenhouses where we're pulling the majority of our crops out, and then we have a direct line into our new field block. It's really efficient, timing wise. So obviously we're going to have everything in there. Greens bubbler system. We have 2 greens dryer machines. We have 2 3-bay sinks. What else am I forgetting in our wash and pack station? We're gonna have some drying racks and stuff, and they're just kind of standard, but we're using a shipping container for it and running an awning off of the side. And so we'll also have our walk-in cooler in there.
Yeah. So with the shipping container, because I've done a lot of designs, and I actually did a design once for a farm where we actually used 2 shipping containers side by side. Now, with that, are you cutting multiple doors in the container so you can have multiple access points?
We're going to have one access coming in. So all the produce comes in one direction, and then it goes into the walk-in cooler, and right next to the walk-in cooler is our door. So we have inside of our workshop, we have all of our big chest freezers completely lined up, and we have a huge 3-bay cooler unit right now that we actually air chill all of our chicken in. So we back our truck up right to our barn. We load everything up in our CSA. It's very efficient. We designed this last year, and everything just, Allyssa writes all the names on the bags, and she goes over what everybody is getting, and I pack all the bags up, put them in the cooler, and then we throw that in the back of the truck, and then we just drive out right next to the garden, and then everything will be loaded out from our walk-in cooler right into the back of the truck, and we're off. So it's no messing around.
Awesome. So what kind of crates do you use or containers do you use for packing shares?
We use a combination of stuff. Number one is the new Igloo coolers that are out. They have like these little black hinges. They improved the design this year, so we bought a bunch of those because they're really sturdy, well-made Igloo coolers. And they're watertight. So we can put them in the back of our truck, and we put all of our shares in the back of that. But when we're stacking in the fridge or whatever, those like U-line crates, we have like U-line crates that we use. And then we also have those, what are they called? The IPC or IBC or whatever, the old black style produce crates that we've all been using since the beginning of time.
Yes, the bulb crates.
Yep, I hate those, man. They're the worst.
Yes. I'm actually about to go get a whole truckload of them, only because I can get them for $1 each.
They're so cheap.
We just got a huge stack of them, and for free, because we know a farmer who just doesn't want them and doesn't need them anymore. He's like, take as many as you want.
Yeah.
And we have sandy soil here, so if we're harvesting with like holes in the crates, all the sand gets into everything, and we already have so much issues. A greens bubbler doesn't quite do the trick for our sand. We actually have to do 3 different washing cycles to get all the sand, especially out of the head lettuces. And
so it must be a very fine sand then.
Extremely fine sand. Yeah.
That's very tough to get with a bubble washer.
But we do have the best drainage. So that's the one positive about it.
Great drainage.
Yeah. No, that's key there. Yeah, we're actually doing a group order of those flip top totes, which is, I think, the ones you're talking about.
We really like those, and they're very sturdy. They've held up. They hold up for a long time.
They're easy to wash, and
20 years plus. Yeah.
There is so much information out there. If there are any beginning farmers listening, trying to get started doing this market garden thing, because we know that it's extremely profitable. The salad greens are very profitable. We're doing some wholesale salad accounts this year. And obviously, if you're doing salad, please go get a greens cutter. Don't be cutting with the Johnny's knife. Just spend the $500, $600 or whatever it is. So if you want more information on what kind of our style of stuff, I would check out Singing Frogs Farm. I would check out Ben Hartman's Lean Farm. Who else are we missing with the gardening stuff that we do? That's kind of like our style.
Yeah.
JM4TA on some of the stuff. And
I mean, the market garden, well, we're not doing anything especially unique with the market garden except for our composting. So that's the only thing, a lot of most market gardeners import compost, and we just make it on our farm.
Yeah, and that's just because we have the full permaculture cycle of everything.
Yeah.
All of our systems are integrated into each other in some kind of way, and it's all agroecological and beneficial.
I encourage people to think of, not to sound like a hippie or anything, but what we're doing is very holistic, and it starts with us as farmers. And if you're focusing on what makes you feel good, the food that makes you feel good, the food that helps heal you, it's going to heal your land and your customers, and it's going to create like a system that is profitable. And at the end of the day, we also, I know this might sound like something people don't often think about, but we're very conscientious of our image and how we present ourselves to our customers. If we as customer, we're ambassadors to a lifestyle that's healthy and that can kind of like give strength and inspiration to our customer base. So we take a lot of time out of our week, not a ton, but just enough to, like, I go to the gym and take care of myself to try to help heal any old back injuries, and try to stay fit and healthy and strong that way.
I go to jujitsu.
Chase does jujitsu.
Stretching.
We both do some yoga, not all the time, but we try to slip it in.
A couple times a week.
It's important because what we're doing is really hard and stressful, and we don't want to seem like basket cases. Sometimes we are.
Yeah, sometimes we cry.
Yes.
But it's really important for us to encourage other farmers to practice what you preach. Eat your food that you grow. And be serious. Like I know a lot of farmers who like show up at the show up to
market with the Coca-Cola.
Yeah, it's like, what are you like, come on. Like, at least fake it till you make it, guys.
Yes, exactly.
But it is an important thing, and I think that we as a homestead, the root of our farm is in our kitchen. We ferment vegetables. We are always eating. There's always crops that we can't sell to our customers. We ferment them for ourselves, and we have healthy gut bacteria.
We have big meals for friends and community volunteers who come out.
Yeah, we make our own bread. We have there's always a big pot of like bone broth on the stove or something.
All the time, we always have a pot of soup.
Yeah,
always have a pot of bone broth. Anyways, back to the enterprises. We already kind of went over our layer hen situation, but yeah, we have two large chicken tractors that we kind of custom built that can be towed by our tractor or a four-wheeler or something like that. And really, I mean, there's not too much to talk about. We use the Novagen chickens. I've used Black Australorp chickens, but now we really just focus on the Novagens. They're extremely productive. We noticed
good temperament.
Yeah, sometimes we'll feed them a little bit higher protein and in the middle of winter or something like that. But we have great eggs. We have a huge pack of dogs at the farm, and they're the key to our success. Without the dogs, all of our animals would be dead.
It's true.
Okay.
Though.
So what type of dogs do you have?
We have 3 Great Pyrenees, and we have an Anatolian Shepherd.
Yep.
And they eat all raw diet from all the food that we grow at the farm.
Yeah. We don't buy dog food. Very rarely do we buy dog food. And then we have two herding dogs.
But remember, one quick thing about that. Our neighbor, who we have a really good relationship with, also has 2 Great Pyrenees dogs, and one of his males, they go out with our 2 males in the middle of the night, and they actually hunt down the coyotes together.
Yeah.
So we have a combination of our neighbors' dogs and our dogs.
On that note, we do have a unique situation on our farm, because our farm is the property that we're on is 200 acres. And then there's about 1,000 acres next to us that it was clear cut, unfortunately, several years ago. But now there's nobody out there. So there's 1,000 acres next to us. There's probably several hundred behind us. And then there's our next door neighbor who has a small homestead right next to us as well. And so they
have sheep, Dexter cattle.
I mean, we're very far off the main road. We have to go down pretty far.
It's a 1/4 mile driveway.
Yeah, it's a 1/4 mile driveway. So we don't really have to worry about our dogs getting hit by cars. And
we have a lot of fenced in
so I know it's unusual, to have that, like all those luxuries. Not every farmer is going to have all of that. Like, I totally get it, but it really works well for us, because the dogs are able to kind of function as they naturally would, which is able to roam without worrying about crossing roads and this, that, and the other.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But we don't lose it. Like, we don't even lose a single chicken. The dogs will tree a raccoon or we have huge coyote problems here, wild dogs.
Oh, I train the dogs to chase birds too, which is hilarious.
Yes.
Really
Hey, thriving farmers, have you checked us out on YouTube lately? We have a bunch of new content there, including a few rants by me. I want to tell you, you don't want to miss them. I actually go rant about, some of the problems I see in our space and some of the challenges I see farmers facing. So go check that out. We've got instructional videos over there as well. Talk about setting up our new farm here in Ohio and all the steps we're going to do that, as well as just tutorials and tips on best practices for all sorts of things on the farm. So go ahead, check over at Growing Farmers on YouTube and see the new content we put together for you. Well, when you say chase birds, round up the birds or chase?
No, like chase hawks, like predatory birds. Yeah.
Very cool, because that is another huge problem.
Yeah.
And I know, let's say, like if you look at white pastures for a while there, they were losing hundreds of birds to eagles.
Yep.
Yeah.
And having that is.
Well, it all started with a little pit bull, and I trained her to like at my old farm. I trained her every time there was a hawk. I had hawks and owls really bad at my old farm, and she saw me running around the farm like a crazy lady, screaming and yelling. And then she started to see, like, what are you looking at? And and then I just started saying, go get that bird. Every time I ran to go chase hogs, I say, go get that bird. And then when I came to this farm and we started adding more dogs and growing the dog pack, they all just taught each other that their job is to look up at the sky and bark at birds and to get them away from the farm.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So we have the Great Pyrenees and the Anatolian Shepherd, and then we have 2 cattle dogs. So I have an older cattle dog that I've been working with for a long. She's like 11 or 12. She's always been with me. I used to have dairy goats and some dairy cattle at the other farm I managed, and I actually ever trained to soft mouth a chicken. So if a chicken runs away, she can pounce on the chicken and not hurt it whatsoever.
It's just fun.
It's really fun.
The dogs, I'm not going to lie, having a giant pack of dogs is a pain in the butt, but it's also really fun. And they're, when you have 3 Great Pyrenees lying around, like they're my therapy dogs. Like if I'm having a rough day,
you can cuddle with 3 great fluffy white dogs.
Cuddle with 3 polar bears and it makes everything okay. I swear.
Yeah. And we do have a trained blue heeler that she can take all the sheep out to pasture, move all of our sheep through the gates. And if I have cows up in the front field, and she can by herself take our entire cattle herd and get them into a corral.
Wow.
So it's it's a hobby for us to have the dogs. Kind of, we just love dogs and animals.
We love it. And it doesn't happen overnight. The training, if you're going to have dogs on the farm, I recommend people who aren't experienced with dogs to get Great Pyrenees, female Great Pyrenees, because they're much more malleable and they're easier to train. Male Great Pyrenees can be kind of tricky. I'm not going to lie. Like I think,
Yeah, you need to have some room for them.
yeah. But you know,
So if
any
you
type of working dog, it's a commitment, and you have to find all the resources you can to understand how the dog works and give it what it needs. And sometimes it's a firm hand, not gonna lie. So
But yeah, I mean, in general, we have a passion for animals. Allyssa and I both have always had this intimate connection with animals and are really an ability to almost communicate and speak with them. And it's part of the reason why we have a farm. We love it so much through and through.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, that kind of goes through all of our enterprises. As far as our homestead, Alyssa already talked about kind of some of the homestead stuff with the fermenting of the vegetables. Our bread, we actually have a homestead flock of geese that we breed and eat lots of. We haven't eaten too much goose meat.
Yeah,
but,
we're letting them breed and to grow the flock a little bit.
so we got those guys, and they're also our weeder geese. So we're building them up. So we're actually putting in a big food forest this year with like planting couple hundred oak trees and like 50 something fruit trees and whatnot. So the geese are going to be our weeders in that system. So we're always thinking about the future all of the time. And how are we going to plug this animal enterprise into this or something like that? We're always planning 6 months, a year, 2, 3, 4 years in advance. We're always planning. Planning is everything.
One thing I know you wanted to talk about that is really important to us is switching from the annual system to the perennial system.
Yeah, this is the biggest thing. So right now, the way that our farm is set up and the way that I set it up from the beginning was very intentional. Everything we do is extremely intentional. So my thought process in the beginning is, hey, I'm going to run pigs and meat birds and market garden to be able to cash flow the investments that I need in the sheep and the cattle. And that's not just in the genetics. That really has to do with livestock trailers, trucks, corral systems, electric fencing systems, watering systems. Like all of this infrastructure takes a lot of money. So we're cash flowing all of these systems with our annual systems, and annual systems are technically meat birds and pork because they require grain. And obviously all of us who are in the regenerative agriculture community, we know that we have to break this grain dependence. And I truly believe that the future of food is going to be goats, sheep, and cattle, because ruminants have the ability to obviously sequester carbon in the soil in very small amounts, build organic matter back on depleted soil systems. And when it comes to invasive plant systems, the sheep and the goats and the cows together are really great at managing these weeds that we have coming up. So in combination with that, we want to invest in the fruit trees, we want to invest in timber crops. But the thing is, when you look at somebody like a Mark Shepard, or you look at a Jeff Lawton, or somebody who's been doing this permaculture kind of thing for a long time and they have an established system, like that costs a lot of money to cash flow. And you can have a normal in-town job and be able to cash flow your dream farm. But for us, we wanted to be farming. So that means making the sacrifice of doing the pigs and the chickens and the annual crops until we can grow our fruit tree operation, until we can grow the cattle herd and the sheep herd.
Yeah.
And our grand vision is to have, you know, a couple thousand acres in production of this rotational grazing of the livestock, and have huge hedgerows that we're trimming up with the livestock and managing nut crops and fruit crops with the livestock integrated underneath of these hedgerow systems. And that just is a matter of time. You know, things take a really long time, and we're being patient with the way that we're growing our farm. We try not to take on too much, and
sorry,
but yeah, I mean, we really just believe in this perennial based system, and over time we want to teach this system to people. We want to be a predominant source in the US to be a permaculture school and show people how to pull this off. We need to move in the system to be able to save the planet, to be able to ensure that people are eating healthier foods in the future, and corn, beans, and rice are not going to feed the world forever. I mean,
we're all about making, like, I think the permaculture gets a bad rap with like conventional farmers and even just your typical organic farmer, because nobody has really truly shown, with the exception of Richard Perkins, how to integrate it and make money.
Yeah.
There's really not very many people who integrate permaculture thoroughly and make a good salary and a good living.
And that's what I've been about this since I started this journey 10 years ago. And it takes a long time, folks. It just takes a really long time. But the motivation that we have to be able to build the permaculture farm in a professional way that's profitable, it's the most fulfilling thing a farmer can do, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think you're right about the aspect of the income and the profitability. Some of these farms, some of the ones you mentioned there, they do the long-term permaculture. They're still struggling to make money because it's a long haul, and that's why you add in the annual crops, which can help you cash flow that really, really quickly. Or if you don't, you're just working an off-farm job for multiple years and knowing that basically this permaculture or the food forest side of things is going to take a long time to actually give you the income.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, we just need to really come up with the cash flow solutions, and those solutions are the most profitable things we know of right now are the pigs and the chickens and the annual cropping systems in the garden. And we also really do focus on this homestead thing. So we're not buying food from the store. We really try to reduce our budget. Like Allyssa and I live a simple life, and we try to not buy all kinds of crazy stuff all the time. We try to be as minimalist as possible, even though we have a homestead and we need like tons of cooking equipment.
Well, not tons. Sometimes it seems like our kitchen is more complicated.
Yeah, but we only have a small kitchen. We converted an old dairy barn into a livable space for us. And where like an old dairy barn has like a pit where the people stand underneath the cows, we put a floor over that, and that's our bedroom and our office space.
And the pit will eventually be like our root cellar.
Yeah.
So
one of our root cellars. And then we have like a 20 by 20 kitchen. It's just still raw concrete on the floors, block walls that we painted all kinds of crazy colors.
Yeah.
And we have a guest bedroom.
Yeah.
It's really simple, and we just try to keep the living situation cheap and simple. We don't have a big house. We don't have a mortgage. We have a free lease on our property right now. So it's, that's part of the way things work, especially when you're a young farmer. You need to figure out what resources you have. What kind of resources do you have at your disposal that will allow you to be able to put the cash flow into your investment portfolio, which once again is the long-term perennial systems for us.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. Either they come into the farming with, a lot of school debt, or they just have, or they're just spending massive amounts of money to buy the property. And the farmland is not cheap. Out here in Ohio, we're looking at about $6,000 to $8,000 an acre for good farmland. And especially if you want to do pasture-based farming, that means you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, or you either a lease or on purchasing that property.
So I think that the key is to, once again, it goes back to community. And there are people who are going to be out there, aging farmers. And we have this issue. The majority of farmers are over the age of 50. And honestly, I think the majority of them are over the age of 70 at this point. They need to sell their farms to people, to somebody.
Yeah. Well, and some of them, I think, if you can figure out a way to almost market yourself as a helper to farmers, I think that there's a lot more farmers out there who would be willing to almost have like a lease to own situation in exchange for assistance on the farm as they grow older. There's so many, Chase mentioned that we're using an old dairy farm as our farm. And I really do think that, especially in the Midwest, there are a lot of dairy farms, small dairies, that have really great structure and thoughtful drainage systems. So that, you know, most dairy farms are very cognizant of like how water flows and all of this. And I think that it could be beneficial for people to research old dairy farms and contact these old timers and say, hey, look, can I help you clean up your farm in exchange for using your a quarter acre as a garden? And I really think that
gain the trust and then like slowly expand and be like, hey, I really need this to be a free lease because I would like to buy your farm one day. And if you give me a free lease for 5 years, I can get my business up and running and buy your farm from you. And it's going to be there for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're doing. My uncle owns the property. So our whole farm really works out because it kind of is a family business.
There's a lot of people involved in helping us. We have a lot of support from our family and friends and, you know.
Yeah. It's
but I will say that it took us a while to get there. There was a lot of people who thought we were all crazy. So and then eventually when you show them the numbers and you say, hey, look, we're making
$200K a year.
We're making 6 figures now in revenue. And even though we're reinvesting with the majority of our profit back into the farm, like eventually the money talks. So
yeah, money always talks. And I think that's something you need to bring back to folks. And, you know, these farmers too, that have these farms, so many of them retire and then they decide to lease the land out to the local big ag farmer. I mean, that's what's happening here is there's a farmer here. I know him. He's a great guy. He does some field work for me, over 8,000 acres, and they only own a fraction of that. And unfortunately, it's easier for them to just get the check for $150 to $200 a year or share crop with the farmer and then just take a chance on a young new farmer. Yeah. So that's where we have to figure out is how do we start affecting those tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of farmers so they do give the young farmers a chance instead of just, you know, perpetuating the old broken system.
Well, I think the key is to not be a know-it-all when you go into the situation. Like a lot of young farmers that go in, they think they know everything and they discredit. And I mean, because I've seen it myself, a lot of them are just straight up rude to old people who, you know, maybe
they have different views than you do about agriculture. And man, I mean, we have so many relationships with like conventional farmers all the time. I had my early mentor when I was a teenager as a conventional farmer, and I got on the combine with him and he showed me how to drive tractors. And all of these skills are so necessary in recognizing that these farmers are just doing the best that they can. They are doing what they know. They're doing the best that they can. Alyssa and I were at a conventional beef auction with really high-end Angus genetics last weekend. And it's like, they're all the same as us. They're all farmers. They're all busting their butts and they have days that they want to cry too, just like you guys. And, you know, the thing is, I think when it comes to these relationships, though, it comes down to confidence and it comes down to professionalism too. Go and knock on people's doors, communicate with them, go to that farm that hasn't been in production in a year or two and knock on the door and say, hey, this is what I'm interested in. This is who I am. This is what I'm about. Wear a button-down shirt. Don't look like a hippie with dreadlocks. And I mean, I have long hair now. I've been growing my hair out. I cut it in the early years of the farm.
Early days, he had short hair.
And, you know, you got to be professional with it. And you have to be communicative with the landowners. Like we had a lease on another 200 acres where we were running cattle 2 years ago. And it did not work out. We failed at it utterly. And it was too long of a drive. It was too far away from our house. We had horrible communication with the landowner. They had different expectations than what we wrote down in the beginning. Like the thing is, just communicate with people and show so much enthusiasm. We love what we do. We're here to make a difference in the world. Please help us and support us, and we're going to change this world. And you just have to have that attitude with all the conventional people.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it too, you just said, is these farmers, they're doing the best they can. They're doing what they know. And if you come in and basically say, hey, what you've been doing for the last 25, 30 years, that's destroying the climate. So move over so I can start farming. That obviously is going to hurt anyone to do that.
They're going to be like, get out of here, you hippie. And you know, but
so you've got to have, you got to have that finesse. And I think the other thing I liked what you said is over communicate. So right now we're doing this this farm stand and we're leasing the property. So literally because of the back and forth with the city and the development plan, we've had 3 different iterations. So iteration 3 just got finalized yesterday. The first thing I did after my architect sent me the drawing was walk over to the landowner who actually has a business across the street as well. And just walked in and said, hey, this is where we are currently. What are your thoughts? Talked through a couple of different things. And he was like, okay, yeah, this, and this is good. But that over communication is so key because I failed at that miserably myself as well. And I almost got kicked off a piece of land because of it. It was one of those meetings no one wants to go to, but I had to go to, and I had to kind of grovel for a little bit. And thankfully they were very understanding landowners. And he just needed me to understand that I wasn't to do anything on the property that he didn't approve of, which again, it was one of those things I didn't think what I was doing was anyway, but it's the over communication, which is so necessary.
And I think that also goes with the same thing with your customers and at the farmer's market, showing up to a farmer's market with dirty clothes and you smell, and that's not okay. You're not going to be making $2,000 a market. You got to be out there. You got to communicate with your customers, communicate with investors, get out there in the community. If you're going to grow a business, like Allyssa and I want to be in the next couple of years, we want to be making $500,000 off of our farm. And the only way that we're going to do that is through communication with community members to help support us and invest in us, invest their time and their money and support us emotionally too, to be able to get to this point so we can actually buy this farm that's 200 acres. It's very expensive and there's a lot of overhead that, we have in our system right now. It costs a lot of money. And
yeah, I mean, Chase and I, in addition to listening in the constant education that we do with researching things for our farm and how to make each enterprise better, we're constantly trying to improve things. But we're also always trying to improve ourselves and be better business people. And we listen to a lot of Tony Robbins types motivation stuff. And I know it sounds goofy and silly sometimes when to put something on like that, but there have been times in my farm career where I literally had to brainwash myself to get up out of bed and do my job, and I don't want to, I always try to keep it real in the sense that it's not puppies and kittens and rainbows all the time on the farm. It's very difficult. We're pig farmers and, pigs do weird things sometimes. I had a sow try to eat her babies once and I was like, get the cat, it's there's really some farming at times can be very morbid and sad. And there, when you're a livestock farmer, there's a lot of sadness that can come, but I do think that there's healing and there's always things that you can learn through each one of those experiences. So I always try to kind of bring it around because I don't want to pretend like our life is a Disneyland story. It's not. It's hard.
Well, and I think one thing too to point out there is it's tough. You have to slog through it. You want to listen to the Tony Robbins, the motivation, because this business that we're in is not an instant gratification business. We are working, we are building equity, you are working through it, and then you get the results. And I think you look at, even a lot of people look at the billionaires out there. You look at the Elon Musk and you look at the Jeff Bezos, and Jeff Bezos spent years trying to figure out how to just sell books online before.
Exactly. And he was sleeping in his office.
We all know
the
this
thing
story.
is I started this farm by sleeping out of a canvas tent. And I was literally cooking in a dirt pit in the ground by myself in the middle of winter and bathing in ice cold buckets of water.
I didn't have heat in my first farmhouse.
So
in the middle of winter.
The thing is,
you all crazy.
Suck it up. You gotta suck it up. And that's part of the fun of it though. I as a woman, I don't play this as a woman card often, but I have my own farming journey separate from my husband. And as a girl, there is a lot, you're taught that there's a lot of things
that girls don't do, and whether or not you want to admit it. I still suck at using a chainsaw. I'm really not good at it.
It's not safe for you. No.
I highly recommend reciprocating saws for small, petite women to use. Reciprocating saws are amazing. But anyways, the point being is I have grown so much as a woman, as a person, because of the mental hardness that I've had to go through and find it deep within myself, like the strength to like lift really heavy things or move heavy things or do hard things. Like you can do hard things. And that is just kind of what I tell myself over and over when I see something like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not doing that or whatever. It's like, you can do hard things, Alyssa. You've done a lot of hard things.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's a great place, I think, to kind of wrap up a little bit. So give us any final thoughts before we end, because I know we've gone long.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry.
This is good. This is good. I love this interview. It's raw, it's honest, you guys are doing some really cool stuff.
Let's see. Number one is your farm is a business. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Always keep that in mind and make the sacrifices in the beginning to allow your business to flourish and be successful. And that means working every day. And for us, like Alyssa mentioned, like we listen to these motivational talks, we listen to business podcasts, we read business books, we try to educate ourselves on everything. And the information is out there. So if you guys can spend an hour doing education a day, and I'm not talking about listening to podcasts, that's a given. When you're out in the field working, listen to every single farming podcast out there, listen to all the YouTube videos, watch all the videos. There's so much content out there now. Like when I started farming, there was not the content out there. I just read Joel Salatin's like How to Farm book, which put me down like not the best path, because the first farm I started totally failed 10 years ago.
Well, whatever.
And it's I read the permaculture book, but now it's like we have YouTube, we have the podcast, and guess what? You can pay a consultant. Please go pay consultants to get you on the right path, because you can spend $1,000-$2,000 that's going to save you $100,000.
Yeah.
Also, I would suggest, I say too, that it's really important to kind of not market yourself before you have a product. I know a lot of starting farmers, they pay all this money, they have this beautiful social media thing and they do all this stuff and they like do all this marketing when they don't have a product. And I really think it's important when you're starting out to put your nose to the grindstone and say, I am not going to sell myself and oversell myself until I know what I'm doing and I can actually like perform and get my crop, whatever it is, out there.
We do not really do Instagram that much. We don't do Facebook or anything like that. A lot of our stuff is just direct marketing. Once again, get out and talk to the customers, face-to-face interaction, make phone calls. Like, I don't want to rely on this like social media game and things like that. We just want to communicate with our customers authentically. And I think that's a huge part in our success so far.
I mean, I'm not knocking Instagram, because I know that there's a lot of farmers who do make money through Instagram or whatever. But we right now are eventually, maybe we'll have some sort of social media content type thing. But I think right now we care more about what's going on at our farm. And, social media, Instagram's kind of a time suck, whether you want to admit it or not. So.
It is totally. Yeah. I see so many farmers just posting on there for other farmers. And I'm like, actually, are you selling to these other farmers or are you selling to your customers? So that's a big thing I see is they're focusing on the wrong thing. But I think the thing too is like so skipping the social game, but going direct to customers, because you're selling a high ticket offer.
Yeah.
You're selling like at $75 a week. That's a heck of a lot more than someone going to the farmer's market and buying a $6 dozen eggs or even a $4 dozen eggs. So you can afford to do that lot more touch marketing, because you know that the long-term return is going to be much better on that.
Yeah.
Joe Salatin talks about this, about not having 1,000 customers, but having 100 customers and focusing on that. And I really took that to heart, because the thing is, if we have 100 CSA members, that's $7,500 a week that we're bringing in just from the CSA. That does not count restaurant accounts. That doesn't count our local markets and little grocery stores that we sell to. So, the thing is, like, if you can generate multiple enterprises and sell all of your products to one individual, like, that saves a ton of time. And as far as time and motion studies, it's really the most efficient way to actually, make a good profit.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Our goal is, so we just built a new funnel for our farm. And I liked what you said about really not pushing and marketing yourself until you're up and going. Like, I am struggling so much with that, because right now I want to be, blanketing the airwaves, doing all these ads and stuff to pull people in, but we don't even have a farm stand yet. I mean, that's going to get approved hopefully next Tuesday night. And then we can start building that, but it's really tough to not be doing that marketing right now. Yeah. But selling more to people. So, like, one of the things we're going to be doing this year is we're going to be doing free gardening classes. And then we're going to have our fertilizer to sell them. And then we're also going to have garden tilling to sell them. And then we're going to have transplants to sell them. And then we can also have like a on-site gardening consultation to sell them as well. So, you're taking one customer and giving 4 or 5 different products that you can sell that one customer, and instead of having to go get 5 customers.
Totally. That's great.
So yeah, and right now we live in a very small community, so that will work for us to do like the garden tilling. If we were we're servicing a large area, that would never work, but we're actually an urban farm, so that makes sense for us. But
totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so exciting for you.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun, and the community is already starting to get behind it really well. So I'm it's a lot of investment. It's a lot of sleepless nights because you're trying to think through all the different options and stuff. But it's when it's up and running, and it's that dream. I love what you said earlier. So you're slogging because you can see the dream. And the thing is, so many people can't see that dream, and so that's why they get stuck with just thinking small. I think is they don't see that long term of what it could be.
Absolutely.
Just yesterday, we had horrible rain here for a whole week, and it just inches. We have two weeks of flooding. Oh my goodness. It was the flooding is so bad. Thankfully our garden is okay. But when we have a lot of livestock, and the soil really takes a beating when we have that much. It's just the mud and everything's wet. And I mean, I was really
behind on 2 weeks on our project schedule.
Yeah, I was really starting to kind of feel like imposter syndrome. You're like, I'm a terrible farmer. Everything looks horrible, But then yesterday, the sun came out. I went for a walk through the farm to kind of check on everything. And the animals were so happy, and everyone's grazing, and the sun was going over the hillside. And, it was I just really felt a lot like I felt renewed, and just try to find those moments on your farm, even during the hard times, because God knows I have a hard time doing it sometimes, but it is really fulfilling what we do.
Yeah, I would say so. Really fulfilling. And there's a lot of people out there on the internet, and everybody gets these ads all the time on Facebook or Instagram or whatever of, oh, you can be a millionaire, you can be a billionaire, this is how you're going to be super successful, and da da da. And the way I see it, and this is a bit of a Buddhist philosophy, but do what you believe in, do what is authentic to you. And there is no reason why a farmer should not be one of those extremely successful people out there. Farming is an amazing, amazing career path. And look at Joel Salatin. Look what he has accomplished, guys. I mean, look what Jordan Green has accomplished in such a short period of time to grow his farm. Like, we are going to be the future of this country, and we just need to show it and be successful out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the point is, focus on the business side, run those numbers, because if you don't, you won't be successful. It's the business that's going to make the money, not that you can grow a chicken or some mushrooms.
Yeah. Oh, and I also recommend to people too, just as a side note, to buy QuickBooks online. And do yourself a favor. And even when you're first starting out, choose 1 or 2 cards that you make all of your purchases on, to keep things organized. And I know that sounds like, like a given, but I'm not an accountant, and I'm not very good at accounting, but I pay a monthly thing for QuickBooks online, and my books are on schedule, and I don't have to stress about that for 3 months, which is what I used to do. So
yeah.
Real quick shout out. Thank you, Greg Judy, for having an awesome YouTube channel. Love the YouTube channel.
Yes, that guy, that his channel is legit. I need to get him on the podcast too. That would be a lot of fun.
And I mean, guys, just don't forget that, like, creating your dream farm and seeing these big giant farms with the white barns and all of this stuff, it takes 20 to 30 years. Be patient, meditate.
Yes. And do it slowly, one step at a time.
Yep. Allyssa, anything else? Is that it?
I'm good.
Favorite farm tool?
Yes.
Reciprocating saw. Oh, yes. And we use Milwaukee tools, and they're just amazing.
Battery operated, everything portable.
Oh yeah. Never underestimate the power of a box of deck screws and impact driver.
Yes.
You can get so much done.
Yes.
My favorite farm tool, I think, might be our F-350 with the flatbed.
Yeah,
the trailer.
Yeah,
we did buy a really nice trailer this year.
Because otherwise we can't get livestock feed to the farm. We can't get, we are currently importing hay bales until we're doing our own hay production, and like all of the equipment and everything that we need to build the infrastructure at the farm. Like, I was able to get these used greenhouses, and I saved like $40,000 by being able to get used greenhouses and pick up the material on our big trailer. And I mean, it's just having some heavy equipment, game changer.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're like the opposite of all the other farmers who are like, stay small, use a BCS, you know.
But I think that comes back to the aspect of every farm is going to be different.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And a nice truck is always fun. I will admit. All right. Well, thank you, Chase and Allyssa, so much for coming on today. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom and sharing your story.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much.
So much love to everybody out there in the farming universe.
Good luck, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Thriving Farmers. Next week on the podcast, I have a very special guest for us. Jeff Moyer with the Rodale Institute will be gracing the airwaves to share all about regenerative organic, transitioning to organic, the roller crimper, and changing your community and how they view food. So join me next week as I interview Jeff Moyer. So there you have it, another episode in the books. So I'd love if you would hop on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. Those mean everything to us. We love to hear what you're thinking. If you have a podcast guest that you can recommend, please pop on over to the Thriving Farmer Podcast website and leave us a review. That's thrivingfarmerpodcast.com.